For those of you who don't know, my name is Stephanie. I am the boobless babe for obvious reasons. Just a quick recap, if you're too lazy to go ahead and check out my pinned videos, I had an aesthetic flat closure, which is this. It's not top surgery, similar but not the same, due to having a BRCA mutation that put me at an 87% chance of getting breast cancer in the future. Clarify, I did not actually get diagnosed with breast cancer. I did this preventatively due to having a familial history of breast cancer because of this gene. A lot of people have mentioned that they didn't know I was queer, lesbian, gay, whichever you identify as or like to use. I personally use all three interchangeably, but a lot of people say that they didn't know until they've seen me post about Diana. And there are things that I post on my page and there are things that I like to keep private. What I share with you is what I want to share with you, and nobody is entitled to more. The fact that I have the rainbow flag in my bio also should be a dead giveaway. I have been in a relationship with Diana for almost 6 years now, and for those of you who don't know, I identify as a lesbian. Now that was not always the case. Let's talk about the comment. The comments that I have been seeing is, of course she's flat, she's a lesbian. Of course she's a lesbian. Look at her chest. There is an idea or belief that I chose to be flat because I'm a lesbian, or that I'm a lesbian because I have no boobs. And neither are the case. My sexuality has nothing to do with why my chest looks the way it does, and vice versa. So let's clarify this. I am a cis female, meaning I identify with the gender that's on my birth certificate, who just so happens to be a lesbian with an aesthetic flat closure. At no point in my life have I ever wanted to be a male, and I still, to this day, do not want to be a male. I identify with being a female. I feel even more feminine without my breasts. I know, shocking. I know I'm blowing your minds right now, but stick with me to the end and you'll realize why I say that being gay is a choice. Just chill. My community, just chill and watch it through. What I'm going to say is going to ruffle some feathers, and it's going to upset some people who are near and dear to my heart. However, it is my life. My social media, my platform is all about advocating, being authentic. Honestly, just showing up as yourself, doing things for yourself. The saying is true. I was born this way. And for all intents and purposes, I believe that. I do. And I still believe that being gay is a choice. Again, stick with me. I was so young, 5 and 7. I remember just always wanting to be around these friends. They were pretty, I liked them, I wanted to hang out with them, all this, that, and the third, but always with them. Now this is going to be the stereotypical story of a Catholic schoolgirl turning into the lesbian. And I'm sorry, but it is what it is. I went to a Catholic private school from when I was 4 years old till I was 14 years old. I was raised Catholic. I church Wednesdays and Sundays, and sometimes even Fridays. I went to vacation Bible school with my cousins. I did all the things, and we had a strong belief. It was just really embedded in us. And it's funny because I call people cherry picking Bible thumpers quite often, and I say that phrase because people like to cherry pick what they want to abide by in the Bible and what they want to persecute in the Bible. When I was growing up, I didn't realize that too often. I just knew you do as your parents say, and I was raised very much in a sheltered, double standard household. Now, being a parent, I understand that parents do the best that they can. Being a kid, it's hard to understand that in its entirety. As you're growing up, you're just seeing that you're not allowed to do certain things. My family, we weren't big on like giving explanations and reasoning behind anything. It was just do as I say, not as I do as you're told, all of that, and just kind of push it off. So growing up, going into Catholic school, I was around roughly the same 25 kids my entire life, from 4 to 14, give or take a couple people. Nothing crazy during middle school or anything like that. It wasn't until high school that I had my first ever real like female experience. I am 31. I have an older brother who's 3 years older than me. So at the time, I was only going to this private Catholic high school because my brother was a senior and my parents didn't want to drive us to 2 different high schools. I wanted to get out of private school as fast as possible and go to public school, but couldn't do that because again, it wouldn't make sense to drive to the public school I wanted to go to while my brother was still going to private school. I get that, I understand. I went to this private school for 1 year. My brother is a senior, so is this girl that I'm talking to was a mask presenting lesbian, meaning shaved head. It wasn't really feminine in the way she dressed, anything like that. But I was scared, you know, being raised, hearing like that's not okay, that go to hell, trying to pray the gay away constantly. And you knew in my household that that's just not what you did. You don't date certain people, and that your parents have to approve of who you're dating before you can even date them. But alas, I did pursue this person and they pursued me for a little bit. I'd say a couple weeks, you know, texting back and forth, flirtatious things here and there. And then randomly one day they had texted me and was like, oh, come out to the hallway. Went out to the hallway, ended up kissing. Oh my God. Big lesbian moment for me. I really liked this person, but again, I was 14. What did I know? Somehow my brother finds out that I kissed her. Now, I can't recall all the details. All I remember is that when I get home that day, my brother comes to me and says, so I hear you kissed so-and-so. My dad hears it and loses his mind. All you hear is, what? And I'm like, oh, fuck. Mind you, we spent the next several hours talking about hellfire and damnation, how that was not okay, unacceptable. It's not happening anymore. Heartbroken, whatever have you, okay. Mind you, it didn't last very long regardless. She ended up getting with her straight best friend at the time. You know, I was just past the time, I guess. That was definitely my first revelation of things. I was like, oh shit, there's more to the world. Did face a lot of backlash from a couple of people that I had actually gone to middle school with. Mind you, I hold no grievances towards these people, but one of my best friends at the time did even say, oh, couldn't you have told me you were gay before we had all those sleepovers and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, guys, gay doesn't work like that. Tangent. Just because I'm a lesbian doesn't mean that I'm attracted to every female that I see. We can control ourselves even if we are attracted to people. We can understand like they're not interested, okay, back off. Still have an appreciation for your beauty, but that's cool. You know, crazy idea that not attracted to every girl that you see just because you're a lesbian. Anyways, fast forward to sophomore year and I finally get to go to the high school that I wanted to go to, which my two cousins were going to, and so we were just going to hop on over there. Well, before I could even have a whole high school experience, an actual high school experience, my dumbass gets into a relationship with a guy. Yeah. I didn't realize then. I mean, I guess I did, but you know, I was attracted to him. I don't know if it was just because of how sheltered I was and being older. My cousins knew him. There were certain criteria that people had to meet that I knew my father would accept. He met one of the biggest ones, that he was a Christian. He went to church with his family. My father would eat all that up. I was 15 at the time and he was 17. It was such a toxic relationship. It was high school. We were children. We'd break up every Friday, get back together on Monday, and mind you, meaning he would break up with me, go do whatever it is that he wanted to do, and I, thinking the sun out of his ass, would get back together with him. It was a toxic relationship for a very long time. I've been to 3 high schools. First one was the Catholic private school for my freshman year. The second one was my first ever public high school. The third one was where I spent my junior and senior year from. Now I was getting a little less heartbroken every time we'd break up on the weekend and get back together and whatnot. I come from a family that believes in getting married, pregnant, getting married if you want to live with somebody. There's no dating and living together and sleeping together out of wedlock. Like that doesn't exist. I was 18 at the time. I wanted to move in with my boyfriend. Yes, the toxic one that we went back and forth. We're almost coming up to 5 years at that point. He even lived in the back of my parents' house in a mother-in-law suite. I thought, yeah, we can move in together. That'd be great. Funny thing is, remember, I come from a family that's not acceptable. Why did I think it was? I don't know. Dad presented me with an option. Want to live together, you have to get married. Guys, listen. The brainwashing that I experienced, like, I understand. I have choices, I have options. I chose at the end of the day to do everything that I've done. But fear is a very strong motivator. And I was afraid for a long portion of my life. I was like, yeah, we'll be together forever, right? My first ever boyfriend, a high school sweetheart. Yeah, what could go wrong? Let's get married at 18. We can go into that story later, but we end up getting married at the courthouse. Even as I was saying I do, I knew I didn't. I knew I shouldn't. I knew it was not the right thing to do, and I still did it because I was scared. I was scared of letting people down. I was scared of what that would mean for me. I was scared of losing that freedom that was tied with him because a longer leash than what I had been kept on. And I wanted that. I wanted more freedom. I got married on February 22nd, 2012, I believe. The first time I got married. Again, right away, I knew I shouldn't have done it. Oh, God. Reliving my trauma here, guys. Let me work through this. If I cry. No, I didn't. I remember seeing this picture of people on the board in the hallway of like all of these different like associates and recognition for things and like different teams. And I saw this one person and they stood out. I was like, who is that? And it just so happened that one of my people on my team were actually in the nest with her. It's like, oh yeah, no, I love her. She's great, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, long story short story long, because there's really no getting around it, just so happened to be one of my first female heartbreaks ever. It's a very messy 3-year entanglement that ended up with me finally having the courage to stand up to my family and come out. I guess technically for the second time at that point. See my dad say that, no, I'm gay. I want to be with this person, knowing what that meant. I think I'm ready to really dive into all of that trauma, but let's just say it was not okay at all. There was a lot that happened, a lot of traumatic stuff. Just to sum it up, the way that it went was, okay, you're gay, but you're no longer my daughter, kind of thing. Very much disownment. Now, mind you, this was years ago, still working through some things. Can't say it's all. I'm just gonna ruin the ending for you. It's not a happy ending at all, in the sense of like familial ties. And I know, cut to this, I know people are gonna be like, that makes sense. You have a strained relationship with your father. Look at you. Back to the 3-year entanglement, it finally was giving me the power because I truly thought that we were going to be together. I truly fell into this whole other world with this person. I was head over heels. When my parents didn't accept me for coming out again and they kind of withdrew from my life, at that point, I was like, okay, it's fine as long as I have this person, like everything's going fine. Like I moved out on my own. My husband and I had separated. I was like pursuing this after we had separated. We weren't legally divorced yet, mind you. We had gotten married in February and by March he had moved out. So just for timeline references, I know you're probably asking. I'm living on my own. I'm pursuing this girl. I've stood up to my parents, let them know that, hey, I'm gay. Obviously dealt with that heartbreak of my family. Still leaning on this person. I thought, crazy, they felt the same way as I did. Yeah, no. For 3 years, I look back at it now, stupid girl. I was toyed with emotionally, mentally. They ended up breaking my heart, pretty much. It was the first ever female heartbreak. You know. I'll say it's hard to compare to my first boyfriend, husband, because like that was a gradual fall out of love. Like every time we would break up when we first were dating, you know, for the first like 3 years, it was really bad heartbreak. It was really bad. And it could have been just like the toxic teen years, you know, and like all of my childhood and the way that I had associated him and our relationship to my freedom and all this, that, and the third. But this obviously was different because I was more mature. I was on my own. I was doing things and I really was invested in this person. Really loved this person. Shortly after I came out to my parents and kind of like broke that bond with them, this person ends up breaking my heart. I feel alone. I feel unloved. I feel unworthy. All of the very much negative self-talk happening in here. Now, mind you, a lot of you say like this is a result of mental illness. This isn't a result of mental illness, but I do struggle with things. Don't get me wrong. And I did struggle with things a lot more when I was younger. So after that, the heartbreak from my family, the heartbreak from her, I was in a very dark place. I remember sitting on my bathroom floor with all of the pills that have ever been prescribed to me because I, without being diagnosed, dealt with a lot of anxiety and depression and panic attacks that doctors had prescribed me medication for. And I laid them out all on the floor in the bathroom, crying my eyes out. You can either end it all or find a new reason to live. And I decided to find a new reason to live. To me, that was get pregnant. Save your judgments. Trust me, I know. I've been there already. I've forgiven myself. I've asked for forgiveness because I played a very toxic role in people's lives. I knew that if I went back to my ex, he would come back and we could end up being a family. And that's kind of what happened. I completely cut off all communication with this woman who broke my heart. Went head first into the religious Kool-Aid, got rebaptized, swindled my way in back to my ex's life, ended up intentionally to get pregnant on my end. We ended up again fixing everything by getting married. You think I learned the first time? I didn't. While I'm pregnant now, again, I cut off all communication with my gaggle of gays, theys, and lesbians. Anything that had to tie with my gay life. I cut it off, kept my blinders on. I wouldn't even want to watch a show or a movie that had any type of gay scene in it in fear that everybody would be looking at me like, oh, are you still gay? Kind of thing. Like, I played my role. I suffered in silence. I dealt with depression and all of that my entire pregnancy. It's a miracle that my son turned out the way that he did. So beautiful, so kind, so loving. I'm very grateful for that. Once I had my son, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was dealing with postpartum depression and anxiety and DMERS and not having a car and having to stay at home with a newborn baby, not taking care of myself, breastfeeding 24/7 and taking care of the house. And it was just a lot that I really just, again, chose to be pregnant. I chose that life. I did that. I don't understand how people after the 6-week clearance postpartum get right back on that horse, because there was no getting back on the horse. Nobody told me my cervix was going to shift after having a kid and it would make any type of physical action uncomfortable. But he tells you that. I'm telling you that now. Not only was it uncomfortable, I felt violated anytime my husband would try to touch me. I felt like, oh my God, my skin would crawl. And it wasn't anything that he was doing. It was just the fact that it was him, that it was a man. I just didn't want to be touched like that. Like, I had tried so hard to pray the gay away. Finally, I guess after having my son, that kind of solidified my reason for living. And it was kind of just like, I didn't want the relationship with it, honestly. I didn't want the relationship with my husband anymore. I just wanted my child. It went on for about like a year and a half. We had gotten into so many arguments. We were fighting so badly to the point where my son took his first steps while me and my husband were yelling at each other. I remember just crying because that was my son's first steps. When more arguments happened and it got to the point where I had gone into my son's bathroom, sat on the floor, my son was in the bathroom with me, and I just remember him crawling on my lap and starting to wipe the tears from my eyes. And in that moment, I swore my son was not going to have a mother that he had to take care of. Emotionally, mentally, it was not going to happen. That's not who I wanted to be as a parent. I did not want that for him. That gave me the strength to finally be strong for him. Because obviously I couldn't be strong for myself and stand up and be who I wanted to be, who I was inside. And I couldn't be miserable anymore, and I couldn't suffer like this anymore. So this is why I say being gay is a choice, because I'm a wholehearted believer that you are born this way. Whether you are cognizant of it or not, you are born gay or not. You're born with a little bit of gay in your DNA. Who knows? But you have a choice to suffer in silence and potentially worse, or to live out loud and accept who you are, regardless of anybody else accept. And I chose in that moment to live out loud, to no longer suffer in silence, to show up as the best version of myself, the happiest version of myself, the strongest version of myself for that little boy. Fast forward to meeting Diana. I'm so grateful for her. I have the debate of my sexuality not playing a part in my choice for an aesthetic flat closure, but I'll give you guys a leg to stand on as far as I can't tell you that without a doubt, if I had stayed in that path of my life of playing straight, being forced into submission by religion, that I would have chosen an aesthetic flat closure if that were my life. I can't tell you that because I was such a different person. I was not nearly as confident, outspoken, and just badass as I am today. And that is because I'm living my most authentic life right now. Having a partner who completely supports me no matter my decision, my choice when it came to my body autonomy, having a female partner who does does have boobs, who, let's be honest, we all love boobs. Boobs are great, they're fantastic, but who put my health in front of my aesthetics and their selfish needs, that is top tier relationship goals. Yeah, maybe because I'm with a woman who actually cares about me and not what I look like, maybe that plays a role in it, which that's the case, maybe you should take a look at you, that you would rather have aesthetics over your partner's health. I don't know. But for a majority of my life, I grew up thinking that I was gonna have implants. And it wasn't until I found my partner, who just so happens to be a woman, that I felt empowered to make a decision for my health, for my body, for my life, that I actually wanted, truly wanted. So all this to say, my aesthetic flat closure doesn't make me gay. And being gay is not the reason why I got an aesthetic flat closure. Looking back and seeing how far I've come, and where I am now, never in my wildest dreams as a little girl did I ever think that I was going to be here. Whether here as in still on this earth, or here as in a lesbian relationship with a woman and raising our son together. I would absolutely love to let that little girl know that it is going to be okay. Go back to that girl who's sitting on the bathroom floor in her apartment thinking that there's no other way, and letting her know that there is, and you're going to be so much better for it. It won't be an easy path, but it's worth it. And again, wouldn't change a thing about my story and my journey, because if I did, I wouldn't have my son, I wouldn't have my partner, and I wouldn't have you guys. It was all worth it, and I don't regret a day of it. That's why I share my life with you, my life choices with you. I want to inspire, educate, and empower. This did take a lot, because I haven't gone into depth and detail of my life story in fear of upsetting and hurting people's feelings. But I don't want to do anybody a disservice, especially myself. I appreciate all of you guys for watching, for listening, and I'd like to close with this. Just because I'm gay, just because I have an aesthetic flat closure, does not mean that I don't believe in God, that I don't have a relationship with them. I do. I just don't believe in condemning somebody because of who they love. I don't believe that loving another woman is wrong. For all of you who say that she needs Jesus, you need to be saved, I am. I can debate that back and forth. At the end of the day, I know my heart. God knows my heart. And that's all that matters. So thank you so much for letting me trauma dump with you guys. If you're not following me already, follow me on here and all my social media platforms. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel so you can get notified of when I decide to trauma dump again. All right.